Hi, everybody. The case I'm presenting is a client system. It's about food insecure communities, stigmas attached to them, and what gaps or insufficient processes need to be addressed. I chose this client system because of the impact that the policy has and why discover why policies like these are even created. Do they ensure justice and accountability, or do they control and destruct? A unique, challenging problem is that the food charity model has never been reformed. It's the exact same way since it's been created. It runs the same way, and it just does not work well with every food item, or opposed to hot foods, cold foods, fresh foods, shelled foods. It's not a system that works for everything in every way, although it is a system that works. The feedback and insight I'm hoping to receive from the class is, how can organizations work together better? What strategies are there for engaging in and building supporting relationships between organizations that have aligned missions and goals? The ethical issue is that nonprofits, receive ridiculous amounts of money because of their name, because of their status, not because of the impact that they're making on the community or the impact that they've had. It's a lot of perceived impact because of their popularity, because of the status, but it's not real impact. It's not directly affecting, the mass majority of people that the program's meant to serve, or the model's created to serve. For example, just on coronavirus, there was a nonprofit food organization that received multiple donations, but one of those donations were $100 million. Another one was $1 million. Another one was a few 100,000, whatever. But the fact that you're getting 100 million and money on top of that because of who you are, who's being held accountable? How is that money being distributed? And there's nonprofits that have to still pay other nonprofits to receive food to distribute to their community. They have to pay per pound sometimes. And so looking at the structure and the barriers is the goal. The client system is all-inclusive to everyone. The commonality is food insecurity and the agreement that there's a lack of healthy food access, or the experience of the lack of healthy food access. The presenting problem is the lack of food access and the quality of food choice. The client still is food insecure after receiving help, after receiving services. And so if they're still struggling with hunger, what kind of impact is the system making, and what gaps in the model? Like, what is the model solving an issue? Is it, putting a Band-Aid on a gash? From my perspective, the change has to start from the CEOs, the government officials, and with the community. We're all accountable to be aware of our rights and advocate for our rights. We have a duty to do that for ourselves and others. The agency I'm with, we advocate for healthy food access, educating and encouraging communities on how to eat healthy. They collaborate with coalitions to create food policies and address food policies that affect community members. I act as an advocate to encourage legislators and founders, CEOs to reevaluate their systems and to ensure that they're meeting what the community needs and what the community is asking. Inadequate food access has historically been identified with marginalized communities and is very much an issue today. The amount of money and control that's tied to food donorship, I see to be a continuing problem for years to come. Over time, the access to food charity or the access to food has increased, but the laws have inclined for to reduce hunger and increase portions of donation. So, in laws have increased, awareness have increased, and portion size has increased. But most importantly, what has not changed is, and what has not been publicly addressed, is the quality and the ethicality of these systems, the quality of the food given, being inclusive to, religion and mindful of culture, and diet restrictions, when giving food, and the ethicality of like the money that's going into these more popular organizations. Like if you're giving one organization $100 million, there's 100 organizations that are thirsty for $1 million, that can thrive off $1 million. So looking at the accountability, and the money that's going into it. The strengths is that, the grants, like I said, and grants increased, awareness has increased, research is, thriving. The limitations is the policy prevent donors to contribute to the system. They keep organizations from collecting food that would otherwise be thrown away, and that's contributing to the overall waste of food in America and globally. The government and this model doesn't provide any education surrounding food policies, and food systems, and it's just been the same. There's been no change, no reform. It's not inclusive, to culture or religion or to diet or allergies. The involved parties are community residents, volunteers, nonprofit organizations, small businesses, corporates, companies, foundations. Everyone basically plays a role in food charity in some capacity, whether they're donating or being a participant of. Decisions for these systems are made through board of directors, and those are usually affluent people that have never experienced food insecurity before. They are not people that look like the people that are using these programs, and historically, they've been, white, older men, and they lack the knowledge and experience, that it takes to run a program like this adequately. They're often thought of as saviors, the complex, like the white savior complex. Social structures that impact the system is policy that prevents organizations to have access to food that would otherwise be thrown away, popularity that favors one organization over the other, and the lack of education. The stigmas of the income discrimination, high prices for healthier food, cheaper prices for food that's not good for you at all, transportation, not having access to get, to the food, or take enough food with you because you can only carry so much, or not having the money to pay for transportation. The environment, there's might be a lack of cooking essentials, utensils, running water, electricity, storage limitations like a refrigerator, and so there's a lot of social structures that impact this system. Groups and organizations that the client is a member of, this system is a major resource and affiliate with farmers and direct distributors, grocery stores, large ones, private ones, government funding. So they work a lot with the government. There's national recognition. And the most impactful group and organization that this client system has is the community members and the participants of it. The community of the compliance system is usually those that are in poverty or people that are unhealthy or at risk to be unhealthy or sick. And they usually use additional resources to supplement, like WIC or SNAP or any other food programs in addition to food banks and food charity systems. The problem with the organization system and the client system is the hierarchy, upholding the power, and instead of integrating community. The problem lies with community as well, and individuals not advocating and not speaking up for their rights. And my recommendations would be efforts to obtain and integrate community feedback, creating new and existing policies that ensures direct benefit to community members, addressing and diminishing power structures, bringing community to the table, because there's nothing about us without us. I would like to know your thoughts on approaching or advocating for fresh food access. What kind of policies would you implement? What kind would you change? What policies have you seen as a problem? And what is your understanding of relationships between organizations aligned with missions and similar practices? Organizations that have the same end goals. What has been your experience in seeing how they partner and work together? And what suggestions do you have for organizations to do better together? Thank you.